Maya Chen lifted another heavy crate and placed it on the transport cart. Her back ached from the long day of work, but she did not complain. Around her, dozens of other workers moved boxes and containers across the massive cargo bay of Kepler Station. The air smelled of metal and fuel, and the constant hum of machinery filled the space. She pulled her gray hoodie tighter around her head. The fabric was old and worn, making her look small and unremarkable. To anyone watching, she appeared to be just another Zalathi worker. The Zalathi were short gray aliens who did most of the manual labor on the station. Maya was about the same height and build, and with her hood up, no one looked at her twice. "Move faster, you lazy creatures!" shouted Supervisor Crix, a large, reptilian Velcarin with sharp teeth and yellow eyes. His voice echoed across the cargo bay. These shipments must be loaded before the night cycle. Maya kept her head down and continued working. She had been on Kepler Station for 3 months now, just another pair of hands in the endless flow of workers. The station was huge, a massive metal structure that orbited between 3 star systems. Ships came and went every hour, bringing goods from across the galaxy. The other workers around her moved slowly. Most were Zalathi, but there were also some Mokari with their thick fur and large hands. A few insectoid Threx clicked and buzzed as they worked with their forearms. Maya worked at the same pace as the others, never too fast, never too slow. She had learned to blend in perfectly. Near the loading dock, a group of Velcarin merchants argued with a Threx captain about shipping costs. Their voices carried across the bay, harsh and demanding. Maya listened while she worked. She understood every word they said, though she pretended not to. The other workers thought she only knew basic work commands in Standard Galactic. "The Draconian Empire is expanding again," one merchant hissed to another. "They took 3 more systems last month." "Let them fight their wars," the other replied. "As long as trade continues, we profit." Maya's hands never stopped moving boxes, but her mind recorded every word. The Draconian Empire was a military force that had been growing stronger for years. They conquered worlds and enslaved entire species. Most aliens in the consortium were afraid of them, but they thought the Draconians would never come here. Kepler Station was neutral territory, a place for trade, not war. She glanced up at the massive viewing ports that showed the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, human ships moved through space, but the galaxy barely noticed them. Humanity was listed as a Category 5 species in the consortium database. That meant they were considered primitive, barely able to travel between stars. Most aliens thought humans were only good for simple labor and basic tasks. That was exactly what Maya wanted them to think. A loud crash broke her thoughts. One of the Zalathi workers had dropped a container, spilling machine parts across the floor. Supervisor Crick stormed over, his claws clicking on the metal deck. "Stupid creature," he roared. "Do you know how much those parts cost? Clean this mess now." The small Zalathi worker cowered and began picking up the scattered pieces. Maya moved closer to help, but Crix pushed her away with his large hand. "Get back to your own work, Grey One," he snarled. "We do not need more mistakes." Maya nodded and stepped back. She had learned not to draw attention to herself. In the 3 months she had been here, she had watched and listened. She knew which species looked down on others, which ones were allies and which ones were enemies. She knew the station's security codes, the location of every important system, and the daily routines of all the important people. As the day shift ended, workers began putting away their tools. Maya followed the other Zalathi to the worker quarters, a large room filled with simple metal bunks. The lighting was dim, and the air recycling system made a constant soft noise. She found her bunk in the corner and sat down. Around her, other workers talked quietly in their various languages. Some played simple games with cards or stones. Others just rested after the long day. Maya pulled out a small datapad and pretended to look at pictures of her home world, like many workers did. But the images on her screen were not of some distant Zalathi colony. They were star charts, ship designs, and tactical information about every major species in the galaxy. Maya studied them carefully, memorizing details that might be important later. She had been trained to remember everything, to see patterns that others missed. A young Zelathi worker named Kel sat on the next bunk. He was new to the station, only a few weeks old at this job. He looked at Maya with friendly eyes. "Long day," he said in simple standard galactic. "You work hard." Maya nodded. "Work keeps us fed," she replied in the same broken style that all the laborers used. It was easier to blend in if she spoke like they expected her to. "Do you have family?" Kel asked. "Far away," Maya answered. It was not entirely a lie. Her real family was very far away indeed on Earth, in a different part of the galaxy that most aliens had never even heard of. Kel smiled sadly. "Same. I send money to my children every month. Maybe someday I earn enough to bring them here." Maya felt a small pang of guilt. Kel was a good person, working hard to help his family. He had no idea that she was not what she appeared to be, but she had a job to do, one that was much more important than moving boxes in a cargo bay. The lights in the worker quarters dimmed as the station entered its night cycle. Most of the workers settled down to sleep. Maya lay on her bunk and stared at the metal ceiling above her. Through the thin wall, she could hear the constant sounds of the station, machinery humming, air moving through vents, and the distant voices of the night shift workers. Tomorrow would be another day of lifting boxes and pretending to be someone she was not. But Maya was patient. She had been trained to wait, to watch, and to be ready when the time came. Human intelligence had placed agents like her throughout the galaxy, all of them hidden in plain sight. The other species thought humans were weak and primitive. They thought human ships were slow and human weapons were outdated. They thought human minds were simple and could only handle basic tasks. Maya let them think that. It made her job much easier. She closed her eyes and began to plan for the next day. There were new shipments coming in from the outer rim, and she wanted to see what was in them. Information was power, and Maya collected information like other people collected coins. Somewhere in the darkness of space around Kepler Station, ships moved along their trade routes. Maya had watched them come and go for months, learning their patterns, their schedules, and their cargo. She knew more about the traffic around the station than most of the people who ran it, but she also knew something else, something that made her sleep a little less peacefully. Her human contacts had sent coded messages warning that the galaxy was about to change. The Draconian Empire was planning something big, and when it happened, Maya might need to stop pretending to be a simple worker. When that day came, the galaxy would learn what humans were really capable of. But for now, she was just another gray figure in a hoodie, invisible among the crowds of alien workers waiting for history to call her name. The alarm started screaming at dawn. Maya woke instantly, her body already moving before her mind fully processed the sound. Around her, other workers stumbled from their bunks in confusion. The emergency lights bathed everything in red, and the station's automated voice echoed through the corridors. "All personnel report to emergency stations. This is not a drill. Unknown ships approaching. All personnel report to emergency stations." Kel grabbed Maya's arm, his eyes wide with fear. "What is happening?" he asked in his native language, forgetting to use standard galactic. Maya pulled her hoodie over her head and helped him to his feet. "Probably just a drill," she said calmly, though her heart was racing. She knew it was not a drill. Her human contacts had warned her this day might come. The worker quarters emptied as everyone rushed toward their assigned emergency positions. Maya followed the crowd, but her mind was already working through possibilities. She had memorized the station's emergency procedures months ago. She knew exactly where she was supposed to go and what she was supposed to do. But first, she needed to see what was happening outside. While the other workers headed toward the main corridors, Maya slipped away down a maintenance passage. Her small size and gray hoodie made her nearly invisible in the dim emergency lighting. She had explored every part of this station during her months here, including areas that were supposed to be off-limits to workers. She climbed a ladder to an upper level and made her way to Observation Deck 7. It was supposed to be restricted to security personnel. But Maya had long ago figured out how to bypass the door locks. She slipped inside and moved to the large viewing windows that looked out into space. What she saw made her stomach tighten. A fleet of dark ships hung in space beyond the station. They were sleek and dangerous-looking, with weapon ports that glowed with deadly energy. Maya counted them quickly: 12 heavy cruisers, at least 20 smaller attack ships, and in the center, a massive dreadnought that was larger than some space stations, Draconian Empire ships. Maya recognized their design from intelligence reports. The dragon-like aliens had come to Kepler Station, and they had not come to trade. She pulled a small communication device from her pocket, no larger than a coin. It looked like the basic, personal communicators that workers use to contact their families, but it was much more sophisticated. Maya pressed a sequence of buttons that would send a coded message to her human handlers. Package delivered. Guests arrived early. Party starting soon. The message would travel through hidden relay stations and reach human intelligence within hours. But Maya knew that help, if it came at all, would not arrive in time to matter. She made her way back through the maintenance passages toward the main cargo bay where workers were supposed to gather during emergencies. As she moved through the corridors, she could hear voices echoing from the command center above. The station's officers were arguing loudly, their voices filled with panic. "How did they get so close without our sensors detecting them?" someone shouted. "The early warning system is offline," another voice replied. "It looks like sabotage." Sabotage? Who would dare sabotage a neutral station? Maya knew the answer to that question. The Draconians had agents everywhere, just like the humans did. They had been planning this attack for weeks, maybe months. She reached the cargo bay and joined the crowd of workers who had gathered there. Supervisor Creeks stood on a raised platform trying to maintain order, but his usual confidence was gone. His yellow eyes darted nervously as he spoke. "Stay calm," he said, but his voice cracked. "Station security is handling the situation. We are in no danger." Even as he spoke, the lights flickered, and a deep rumbling sound echoed through the station. Maya felt the deck vibrate under her feet. Something had just impacted the station's outer hull. A new voice came over the communication system, but it was not the station's automated announcements. This voice was deep and harsh, speaking in the guttural language of the Draconian Empire. Maya understood every word, though most of the workers around her did not. "Attention, inhabitants of Kepler Station. You are now under the authority of the Draconian Empire. Surrender immediately and prepare for boarding. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of this facility." The cargo bay erupted in panic. Workers pushed and shoved as they tried to reach the exits. Some of the Zalathi began crying, their high-pitched voices adding to the chaos. The Mokari workers gathered together in groups, their thick fur standing on end. Even the usually calm Threks were clicking their mandibles in distress. Maya stayed where she was, watching and thinking. She had studied Draconian tactics during her training. They did not make empty threats. If the station resisted, they would destroy it without hesitation. But if the station surrendered, they would take control and turn it into a military base for their expanding empire. Neither option was good for the people on the station, or for the galaxy as a whole. She slipped away from the crowd and made her way toward the command center. If she was going to do something, she needed to know exactly what the station's defenses looked like. She had mapped the basic systems during her months here, but she needed more detailed information. The corridors near the command center were filled with security officers and station personnel running back and forth. In the confusion, no one noticed another gray hooded worker moving through the passages. Maya had become very good at being invisible. She found a maintenance shaft that led to the technical levels just below the command center. From there, she could access the station's computer systems without being seen. She plugged her small device into a data port and began downloading information. What she found was worse than she had expected. The station's defensive systems were not just offline due to sabotage. They had been completely disabled. The shield generators were shut down, the weapon batteries were locked out, and even the basic communication arrays were being jammed. Someone had been planning this attack for a very long time. Maya studied the schematics on her device. Kepler Station had been built as a trading post, not a military installation, but it did have some defensive capabilities. There were automated weapon systems designed to deal with pirates and raiders. There were backup power systems and emergency protocols, but all of it had been systematically disabled by the sabotage. Above her, she could hear voices from the command center. Station Commander Veltar was arguing with his officers about whether to surrender or fight. "We have no weapons, no shields, and no way to call for help," one officer said. "Surrender is our only option. I will not hand this station over to the Draconians," Veltar replied. "There must be something we can do." "What can we do?" another voice asked. "Our computer systems are down. Even if we could get the manual weapons online, we have no way to calculate firing solutions. Hitting moving targets in space without computer assistance is impossible." Maya listened carefully. The manual weapons were still functional, but they needed someone to calculate where to aim them. The computers that normally did that job had been destroyed by the sabotage. She pulled up more technical details on her device. The station had 6 heavy plasma cannons that could be operated manually. They had enough power to damage or destroy the smaller Draconian ships, maybe even hurt the bigger ones, but without computer guidance they would be firing blind, unless someone could do the calculations in their head. Maya smiled grimly. She had spent years training for exactly this kind of situation. Human brains were good at spatial reasoning and complex mathematics. What these aliens needed computers for, humans could do naturally, but first, she would have to reveal who she really was. She made her way back toward the cargo bay, thinking through her options. She could stay hidden and hope that someone would find a way to save the station. She could try to escape in the confusion and make her way back to human space. Or she could step forward and show these aliens what humans were really capable of. The choice, she realized, had already been made. The moment the Draconian fleet had appeared, her mission had changed. She was no longer just an intelligence agent gathering information. She was the only person on this station who could fight back. Time to take off the hoodie. Maya walked through the chaos toward the command center. Around her, station personnel ran in panic as another impact shook the structure. Emergency lights flashed, and the air smelled of burned circuits and fear. She had made her decision. The command center doors were guarded, but in the confusion, the security officers were too distracted to stop a simple worker. Maya slipped past them and entered the nerve center of Kepler Station. The room was filled with alien officers shouting at each other in several different languages. Commander Veltar stood in the center, his reptilian features twisted with frustration. His yellow eyes glowed with anger as he stared at the dead screens around him. "Sir," an officer called out, "the Draconians are preparing to board. Their troops are loading into assault ships." "How long do we have?" Veltar demanded. 10 minutes, maybe 15. Maya stepped forward. Her movement was quiet, but something about it made several officers turn toward her. She still wore her gray hoodie, still looked like just another worker, but there was something different in the way she carried herself. "Commander," she said in clear, perfect standard galactic. Not the broken words of a laborer, but the precise speech of an educated person. Veltar spun around, his eyes narrowing. "Who are you? How did you get in here?" "I can help with your weapons problem," Maya said calmly. The room fell silent. Several officers laughed, but the sound was nervous and uncertain. "You?" asked Lieutenant Zex, a thin Threx with 4 arms and compound eyes. "You are just a cargo worker. What could you possibly know about weapons systems?" Maya looked around the room, meeting each alien's gaze. "I know that your manual plasma cannons are still functional. I know that you need firing solutions to target the Draconian ships, and I know that I can calculate those solutions without a computer." More laughter. But it was weaker now. Commander Veltar held up a hand for silence. "Explain," he said. Maya reached up and slowly pulled back her hoodie. Her human features became visible for the first time. Dark hair, brown skin, and eyes that held intelligence and confidence. Several officers gasped. They had never seen a human up close before. "My name is Dr. Maya Chen," she said. "I hold advanced degrees in mathematics and astrophysics from the Terran Institute. I have been working undercover on this station for 3 months, gathering intelligence for my government." The silence was complete now. Every eye in the room was fixed on her. "Impossible," whispered Captain Roku, A Velkaran like the commander. Humans are Category 5. You cannot even build proper starships. Maya smiled, and there was something dangerous in that smile. That is what we wanted you to believe. Commander Veltar stepped closer, his claws extended. You are a spy? Yes, Maya said simply. But right now I am the only person on this station who can save it. Another impact shook the command center. Through the viewing ports, they could see draconian assault ships moving closer. Even if what you say is true, Veltar said, manual. Targeting is impossible. The calculations are too complex. No organic mind can track multiple moving targets in three-dimensional space, while accounting for momentum, gravity, and ship movement patterns. Maya walked to the weapons control console. It was a complex panel covered with switches, dials, and displays. Most of the screens were dark due to the sabotage, but the basic manual controls were still active. Watch me, she said. She studied the tactical display that showed the positions of the draconian ships. Her eyes moved quickly, calculating distances, velocities, and angles. To the aliens watching, it looked like she was just staring at the screen. But Maya's human brain was doing something their minds could not comprehend. Humans had evolved as hunters. For millions of years, they had thrown spears and shot arrows at moving targets. Their brains were naturally designed to calculate trajectory, timing, and three-dimensional movement. What seemed impossible to these aliens was as natural to Maya as breathing. Plasma Cannon 1, she said, her voice steady. Elevation 12 degrees, bearing 47 degrees, power at 60%. Fire in 3 seconds. Lieutenant Zex moved to the controls, his forearms working quickly. You cannot be serious. Fire now, Maya said. Zex pressed the firing button. Through the viewing port, they saw a bright beam of energy lance out from the station. It struck one of the smaller draconian ships directly in the engine section. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light. The command center erupted in shocked voices. Several officers stared at Maya as if she had just performed magic. Impossible, breathed Commander Veltar. Maya was already calculating the next shot. Cannon 2. Elevation 8 degrees, bearing 91 degrees, power at full. That cruiser is trying to move behind the asteroid. Fire in 5 seconds to intercept. This time, the officers moved without question. The second shot struck the Diao, draconian cruiser, just as it emerged from behind cover. The ship's shields flared and failed, and secondary explosions rippled across its hull. How? Asked Captain Roku. How can you do this? Maya continued calling out firing solutions, her mind processing information faster than the aliens could follow. Human brains are different from yours, she said while calculating the trajectory for the next shot. We evolved to hunt, to track moving prey across vast distances, to throw projectiles with deadly accuracy. A third draconian ship exploded, under the station's fire. Your species developed advanced computers because your minds cannot handle these calculations naturally, Maya continued. Humans do not need computers for this. We are the computers. The draconian fleet was reacting now, changing their formation and trying to present harder targets. But Maya adapted instantly, her calculations adjusting for their new movements. She was not just hitting targets, she was predicting where they would try to go next. Impossible, Commander Veltar said again, but his voice held awe now instead of disbelief. Maya glanced at him while calling out coordinates for the next shot. You have been watching humans for decades, Commander. You have seen us work as laborers and servants. You thought you knew what we were capable of. Another draconian ship took a direct hit and began spinning out of control. But you were only seeing what we wanted you to see, Maya said. Humans have been preparing for this day for a very long time. The draconian fleet was pulling back now, their formation broken. The massive dreadnought was turning to bring its heavy weapons to bear on the station, but Maya was already calculating solutions for the big ship. Cannons 3 and 4 synchronized fire, she said. The dreadnought's shields have a weak point just behind the forward sensor array. If we hit it with simultaneous strikes, the two plasma beams lanced out together, striking the exact same point on the massive ship's shields. The barriers flared and collapsed, leaving the dreadnought vulnerable. All cannons full power. Target the bridge section, Maya ordered. Fire now. 6 beams of energy struck the Draconian flagship simultaneously. The bridge exploded in a ball of fire, and the massive ship began to drift helplessly. In the sudden silence that followed, Maya finally allowed herself to breathe. Around her, the alien officers stared in amazement at what had just happened. The being, fleet is retreating, reported Lieutenant Zex, his voice filled with wonder. They are jumping to hyperspace. Commander Veltar approached Maya slowly, as if she might vanish like a mirage. Who are you really? He asked. What are humans really? Maya looked around the command center, meeting the eyes of every alien present. When she spoke, her voice was quiet but carried clearly through the room. We are what happens when a species evolves to survive by thinking faster, adapting quicker, and never giving up, she said. We are what you get when a primitive world teaches its children to aim carefully and never miss. She paused, letting that sink in. And Commander, she added, we have been watching all of you for a very long time. The command center buzzed with activity as damage reports came in from across the station. Maya stood at the weapons console, no longer hiding behind her worker's disguise. Her gray hoodie lay on the floor where she had dropped it, and for the first time in months she felt like herself again. Commander Veltar paced back and forth, his reptilian features showing confusion and concern. Lieutenant Zex, what is the status of our defensive systems? The Threx officer's forearms moved across multiple control panels. The sabotage was extensive, Commander. Main computers are still down, shields are offline, and communications are limited to short range only. But the weapons work, Captain Roku added, glancing at Maya with something between respect and fear. As long as she can calculate the targeting solutions. Maya turned away from the console to face them. The Draconians will be back, she said, simply. This was just a scouting attack. They wanted to see how quickly they could take the station. How can you be certain? Veltar demanded. Because that is how they operate, Maya replied. They probe for weakness first, then return with overwhelming force. I estimate we have 6 hours before the main fleet arrives. The aliens exchanged worried glances. 6 hours was not enough time to repair their computer systems or restore their automated defenses. There is something else you need to know, Maya continued. She walked to the central holographic display, which was one of the few systems still working. I was not the only human on this station. She pressed several buttons, and the display changed to show personnel records. Names and faces appeared in the air between them, dozens of workers from various species. These are all humans, Maya said, highlighting specific records. Kel from the Zalathi quarters, Mira from the maintenance crew, Jorik from the engineering section. We have been here for months, learning your systems, studying your capabilities, preparing for this day. Commander Veltar's eyes widened. Impossible. Kel is clearly Zalathi. I have seen him myself. Maya touched another control, and Kel's image changed. The gray skin faded away, revealing a human face underneath. Holographic disguise technology, she explained. We developed it specifically for infiltration missions. How many? Whispered Lieutenant Zex. On this station? 23 humans in total. Maya's voice was matter-of-fact, as if she were discussing cargo schedules. Across the galaxy, thousands. The silence that followed was deafening. Captain Roku was the first to speak. You have been spying on all of us, learning our secrets, preparing for war. Maya shook her head. Not war, defense. Humans have watched the galaxy for decades, Commander. We have seen what happens to species that are unprepared when the Draconians come. We decided not to let that happen to us. She gestured to the tactical display. Every major trade station has human agents. Every military base, every government center, every important facility. We have been mapping your strengths and weaknesses, learning how you fight, understanding how you think. But why? Veltar demanded. Why go to such lengths? Maya's expression became serious. Because we learned from history. Every species that the Draconians conquered made the same mistake. They underestimated their enemy. They thought their technology would save them. They trusted in their military superiority. She pointed to the debris field outside where the destroyed draconian ships still drifted. Technology can be sabotaged, military superiority can be overcome, but preparation and intelligence, those are much harder to defeat. An alarm chimed, softly. Lieutenant Zex checked his displays. Commander, we are receiving a transmission. It is coming from the outer rim, but the signal is very strong. Put it through, Veltar ordered. The holographic display flickered, then resolved into the image of a human woman in military uniform. She appeared to be on the bridge of a starship, with other humans visible in the background. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force, the woman said. We received Dr. Chen's emergency signal. Is the station secure? Maya stepped forward. Hello, Admiral. The immediate threat has been neutralized, but we expect a larger attack within hours. Admiral Chen nodded. Understood. Fleet units are already en route to your position. Estimated arrival time is 4 hours. Commander Veltar moved into view of the transmission. Admiral, I am Commander Veltar of Kepler Station. Your agent has just revealed a massive intelligence operation. The Consortium Council will demand answers. The Admiral's expression remained neutral. Commander, with respect, the Consortium Council classified my species as barely sentient and suitable only for manual labor. We decided to let you continue, believing that while we prepared for the real threats facing this galaxy. You deceived us, Captain Roku accused. We protected ourselves, Admiral Chen replied firmly. And today we protected you as well. Dr. Chen could have remained hidden and escaped when the Draconians attacked. Instead, she chose to save your station and everyone on it. Maya activated her small communication device. All human assets, this is Blackbird. Protocol 7 is now active. Reveal yourselves and assist station personnel with emergency preparations. Within minutes, reports began coming in from across Kepler Station. Human agents who had been disguised as workers, janitors, and low-level staff were suddenly taking charge of repair efforts, security operations, and defensive preparations. Kel appeared on the command center's communication screen, but he no longer looked like a Zalathi. His human features were visible as he spoke from the engineering section. Maya, we have restored partial power to the shield generators, he reported. Give us another hour and we can have them at 50% capacity. Mira's voice came from the maintenance deck. Weapon systems are being upgraded. We have some human technology that should improve their effectiveness. Commander, Veltar looked around the command center in amazement. How long have you been planning this? Maya checked her device as more reports came in. 73 years, she said. Ever since we first made contact with galactic civilization and realized what we were facing. 73 years. Lieutenant Zex's compound eyes focused on Maya intently. But humans have only had interstellar travel for 40 years. Maya smiled. No, Commander. Humans have had interstellar travel for over a century. We just let you think we were primitive. It made infiltration much easier when everyone assumed we were too stupid to be a threat. Admiral Chen's voice came through the communication system. Dr. Chen, long-range sensors are detecting a massive draconian fleet moving toward your position, at least 200 ships, including 3 dreadnoughts. The aliens in the command center exchanged horrified glances. 200 ships was enough to conquer an entire star system. Understood, Admiral, Maya replied calmly. How large is our response fleet? 47 ships, the Admiral answered, but they are equipped with our latest technology. The Draconians have never faced human military vessels in direct combat. Maya turned to Commander Veltar. Commander, I recommend you evacuate all non-essential personnel to the intersections of the station. This battle is going to be much larger than the first one. Veltar nodded slowly. Dr. Chen, Maya, why are you doing this? Why help us when we have treated your species so poorly? Maya looked out the viewing port at the stars beyond. Because that is what humans do, Commander. We protect those who cannot protect themselves. We stand up to bullies, and we never abandon our friends even when they do not realize they are our friends. She turned back to face the assembled aliens. Besides, this station is important to us too. It sits at the intersection of 3 major trade routes. If the Draconians control it, they control access to half the galaxy. And, she added with a slight smile, we have been working here for 3 months. This is our home now too. Commander Veltar straightened his shoulders. Then we fight together. Maya nodded. Yes, Commander. We fight together. But first, you need to contact the Consortium Council and warn them. This is not just an attack on one station. This is the beginning of the Draconian Empire's final expansion. They are coming for everyone. As alarms began sounding throughout the station and emergency preparations continued, Maya reflected on how quickly everything had changed. A few hours ago, she had been just another invisible worker. Now she was revealing secrets that would reshape the entire galaxy. The battle for Kepler Station was about to begin in earnest, but Maya was no longer fighting it alone. The Draconian fleet emerged from hyperspace like a storm of metal and fire. Maya watched from the command center as 200 enemy ships took up attack positions around Kepler Station. The massive formation blotted out the stars, their dark, hulls bristling with weapons. My God, whispered Lieutenant Zex, his compound eyes reflecting the glow of enemy ships. How can 47 ships stand against this? Maya studied the tactical display, her human mind already calculating possibilities. Numbers are not everything, Lieutenant. Sometimes intelligence matters more than firepower. Commander Veltar stood beside her, his reptilian features tense with worry. The evacuation is complete. All civilian personnel are in the inner sections. Station defenses are as ready as they can be. Good, Maya replied. Admiral Chen, what is your fleet's position? Admiral Chen's voice came through the communication system. We are holding at the edge of the system. Dr. Chen, the Draconian fleet is much larger than expected. Are you certain the station can hold until we engage? Maya looked around the command center. Humans and aliens worked side by side now, preparing for the battle ahead. The disguises were gone, the pretenses dropped. For the first time in decades, both species were working as equals. We will hold, Admiral, Maya said. Begin your attack when ready. The Draconian commander's voice echoed through the station's communication system, harsh and demanding. Attention, defenders of Kepler Station. You have 10 minutes to surrender unconditionally. Resistance will result in complete destruction. Commander Veltar stepped forward. This is Commander Veltar. Kepler Station rejects your demands. We will not surrender to pirates and murderers. Maya smiled at his courage. 3 hours ago, this same alien had thought humans were barely intelligent. Now he was standing beside her against impossible odds. All human assets. Report status, Maya said into her communication device. Reports came in from across the station. Kel had restored the shield generators to 70% power. Mira had installed human targeting computers to back up the weapon systems. Jorik had modified the station's engines to provide more power for defensive systems. Dr. Chen came. A new voice over the communication system. It was Jorik speaking from the engineering section. I have a surprise for our friends out there. What kind of surprise? Maya asked. Remember those broken cargo containers we have been storing in Bay 7? The ones marked as worthless scrap metal? Maya's eyes lit up. The kinetic mines? Exactly. I have been positioning them around the station for weeks. They are invisible to Draconian sensors and pack enough punch to crack a cruiser's hull. Commander Veltar looked confused. Kinetic mines, what are those? Maya explained while watching the enemy fleet movement. Simple devices. They accelerate chunks of dense metal to near light speed using magnetic fields. No energy signature. No heat trail. Almost impossible to detect. When they hit something, the kinetic energy is devastating. Clever, admitted Lieutenant Zex. Primitive but effective. That is the human way, Maya said. We prefer solutions that work over solutions that are complicated. The 10 minutes passed quickly. Maya watched as the Draconian fleet began moving into attack formation. Their ships were beautiful in a deadly way, sleek and powerful, representing the pinnacle of their military technology. Here they come, Captain Roku announced. The first wave of enemy ships swept toward the station, energy beams lancing through space. Kepler station's shields flared as they absorbed the impacts, but they held. Maya began calling out targeting solutions, her voice calm and steady despite the chaos around her. Plasma Cannon 1. Target the lead destroyer. Elevation 15 degrees, bearing 60 degrees, full power. The station's weapons fired back, and the targeted destroyer exploded in a brilliant flash. But there were dozens more behind it. Admiral Chen? Maya called out. Now would be good. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace behind the Draconian formation. 47 ships against 200 seemed hopeless. But Maya knew something the enemy did not. These were not the primitive human vessels that the galaxy expected. The first salvo from the human fleet was devastating. Advanced weapon systems, developed in secret over decades, tore through Draconian shields like paper. Ships that had seemed invincible moments before were suddenly burning and exploding. Impossible, breathed Commander Veltar. How are your ships so effective? Maya continued calling out firing solutions while she answered. We had 70 years to study every ship design in the galaxy, Commander. We know exactly where the weak points are. The battle turned into chaos. Draconian ships found themselves fighting enemies they did not understand. Human vessels moved with unpredictable patterns, used weapons that should not exist, and employed tactics that defied conventional military doctrine. Jorik, activate the mines, Maya ordered. Around the station, invisible devices suddenly began, launching their deadly cargo. Chunks of metal, accelerated to tremendous speed, slammed into Draconian ships without warning. Even their powerful shields could not stop kinetic impacts traveling at significant fractions of light speed. The enemy fleet began to falter. Ships exploded or broke apart under the unexpected assault. Their formation, so perfect and intimidating, minutes before dissolved into confusion. But Maya was not finished. Admiral Chen, execute Protocol Omega. Confirmed. Protocol Omega is active. Across the battlefield, something remarkable happened. Ships that the Draconians had thought were destroyed suddenly came back to life. Human vessels that had been playing dead rose from the debris fields with weapons blazing. Emergency beacons that had been floating in space for hours revealed themselves to be disguised fighters. Maya had learned the most important lesson of human military strategy. Never show your enemy your true capabilities until it is too late for them to adapt. The Draconian commander's voice came over the communication system again, but this time it carried panic instead of arrogance. Retreat! All ships retreat! We are facing unknown technology. But Maya was not ready to let them leave. Admiral, do not let them escape. If they report back to their empire, they will return with even more ships. The human fleet moved to block the escape routes. Advanced fighters, invisible to most sensors, appeared throughout the battlefield. The Draconians found themselves surrounded by enemies they had not known existed. Within an hour, it was over. The massive Draconian fleet had been destroyed or captured. Only a few small ships managed to escape, and Maya suspected even those would not make it back to their empire. Human forces had been waiting along every possible escape route. As the last enemy ship exploded, silence fell over the command center. Commander Veltar stared out at the debris field that had once been an invasion fleet. How? He asked quietly. How did a primitive species become so powerful? Maya removed a small device from her pocket. It looked like a simple personal communicator, but when she activated it, her appearance began to change. Her human features became more pronounced and small technological implants became visible along her temples. We are not primitive, Commander, she said. We never were. We let you believe that because it served our purposes. She gestured to the viewing screen showing the aftermath of the battle. Every major alien species in this galaxy makes the same mistake. You assume that advanced technology makes you superior. You think that bigger ships and more powerful weapons guarantee victory. But humans learned something different. We learned that the best weapon is the one your enemy does not know about. The best defense is the one they cannot see coming. And the best strategy is to let your opponent underestimate you until it is too late. Admiral Chen's image appeared on the communication screen. Dr. Chen, excellent work. The Consortium Council is requesting immediate talks with human representatives. Maya nodded. Tell them we will be happy to discuss a new relationship between our species. But this time it will be as equals. Commander Veltar approached her slowly. What happens now? The galaxy knows the truth about humanity. Everything changes. Maya looked around the command center, meeting the eyes of every alien present. Yes, everything changes. The Draconian Empire will think twice before attacking neutral stations. Other hostile species will have to reconsider their expansion plans. And species like yours will have new allies in the fight for freedom. You could have revealed yourselves at any time, Lieutenant Zex observed. Why wait until now? Maya smiled. Because we needed to be sure we could win. Humans do not like to fight, Commander, but when we do fight, we fight to win completely. Today, the galaxy learned that humanity is not weak or primitive or suitable only for manual labor. She walked to the viewing port and looked out at the stars. Today, the galaxy learned that when humans say never again, we mean it. In the weeks that followed, news of the Battle of Kepler Station spread throughout the galaxy. The story of how a single human, disguised as a low-ranking worker, had saved an entire station and revealed humanity's true capabilities, became legend. The Consortium Council formally reclassified humanity as a Category 1 species and invited them to join as full members. The Draconian Empire's expansion halted as they faced the reality of human military capabilities. Dozens of other hostile species suddenly found themselves reconsidering their aggressive policies.